Hey everyone, this is Benny. So I wanted to talk to you guys about something that was brought to my attention here. Sorry, I'm just adjusting the camera. Something that was brought to my attention while I was on the internet on a group for trans men. Um, I noticed that in this particular group, there were a lot of people that seemed to be supporting each other in the realm of trans men trying to help each other, like asking questions about T injections or, surgery, things of that nature. Like, how to make friends or, parents giving them a hard time. And everything seemed fine. I enjoyed the group for what it was worth until someone brought up the subject of race. Now, I know what you're thinking. Race is a very sensitive issue, and nobody wants to talk about it. But the problem is that everybody needs to be talking about it. Um, there are plenty of black trans men out there who feel, underrepresented, much like me and many of the Latino trans men out there. Because when you see trans men in media, it's always white trans men, which is fine because they need their support as much as the rest of us too, because at the end of it we're all in this together. Um, however, in terms of marginalized people, oh, it's just not something that white trans men, I will say, because even there are white trans women who advocate for our sisters. So it's mostly trans men who just don't seem to get it. And there was a black trans man on this group who brought up the subject and why people got so sensitive. He's asking questions. Why can't we talk about race? This is something that happens. And people were immediately getting defensive. And I was reading through, I was reading through the thread to see what people were saying. And it was kind of abhorrent to me, because not only did it turn into an all lives matter kind of situation, which to any of you watching, all of you will probably agree that that's not good. But it's the conversation, and I think it always has been this way, is that people are turning this Black Lives Matter this this Black Lives Matter civil rights movement into something about them. They're turning it into uh uh you know like, I don't know how to explain it. And forgive me, I stumble on my words when I talk. I'm much more articulate when I write, but white people just seem to take everything out of context and just turn it into turn it into something that involves feelings. You know, um, all lives matter because I, as a white person, feel left out of that, statement. And honestly, that's not the point. The point of Black Lives Matter is to tell people that all lives matter. The only reason that Black Lives Matter exists is because you know because unless it was said, no one would think otherwise. I read an article not too long ago about how um, someone was saying that the equivalent to saying all lives matter is someone is sitting down with your family, and everyone getting food except you. And when you say, well, where's mine? Don't I get a plate? I should be getting a fair plate, a fair share of the food too. And the dad said, everyone should be getting a fair plate of food, you know. But the problem is that you still don't have a plate of food and everyone else does. So and that was what was equated to all lives matter versus Black Lives Matter. Like you're saying all lives matter by saying Black Lives Matter. So it's really irritating to me personally as an ally to hear and see all of these non-black people saying, "Well, what about me?" Michelle Obama putting a campaign out there saying black girls rock is an issue because all girls rock, and that's not the case, because little white girls, even little Latina girls are put on a pedestal saying that they're beautiful, que buena, they're gorgeous, you know and from the stories that I've heard from my friends, that's not the case for little black girls, and it's heartbreaking, honestly. And I'm not gonna sit and give y'all a lecture on this because I'm not the right person to be doing that. If you want a lecture on this kind of stuff, listen to what your black friends have to say. That is the best way to be an ally. Just listen to what they have to say and affirm them. Be there for them. I don't understand why that's so hard to comprehend. Listen to what your friends have to say and be there for them. That's it. Now, something I wanted to talk about was that this conversation in the group of trans men turned into, you know, feminist bashing, social justice warrior bashing. It turned into a mess, honestly, because what it is that people don't like hearing the truth. And one thing that surprised me was that there were several trans men in the group who were openly saying that they were men's right activists. And I think that was when the line was drawn for me. Like I drew the line and I posted a message on the group and I laughed because I me, as a trans man cannot be in a space like that because it's not healthy for anybody. And I know at some point we all grow as people, we all, recognize sometimes that, things change and that we change as people and our attitudes change as people. But the problem is trans men saying that they are men's right activists. Now, me, I've been sitting for months, and I will say months, and my friend B can attest to this. Because I've been talking to her and her girlfriend Mando for months, just trying to hash this out, figure it out. Um, and one of the reasons why I haven't been doing any of that is because I didn't feel validated as a trans man. Um, you know, so I sat down and I sat down with them and we talked about creating a magazine for trans men and masculine of center people. My immediate fear was that this was going to turn into you know, something that would be feminine, anti-fem. And, my friends, they assured me that that wasn't what we were trying to do. We were just trying to create space for masculine of center people. Because the issue is that, as trans people, trans men and trans women, there's not a lot of space for us. We don't have designated spaces to go partying and to, feel safe. We have to create those spaces, much like the rest of the LGBT community. But the problem is that many in the LGBT community still take issue with us. So my goal with this magazine that we're trying to make is to just provide this space for trans men to talk about issues, that we experience. Um, but I just struggled, and like I said, my biggest fear was that people would perceive it as being misogynist and anti, anti-feminine. So the more and more I thought, man, like there needs to be a space for trans men. Trans men need to come out, and we need to talk about our problems. We need to be out there with our sisters. We need to be like on the front line with them. But then I saw these people, and then I realized why we're not on the front line. And I'm going to say it, trans men are selfish. We're selfish. All we care about is transitioning into the quote unquote men that we always were. And that's it. Then we blend in, and we don't have to worry about street harassment. We don't have to worry about a third of the things, half of the things that our sisters go through, that they experience. Street harassment isn't a thing. My, you know, my friend B said this to me, and it sounded off when she said it to me, but it made sense. She said, the only thing, the worst thing you'll have to worry about is being raped. And that really put me off. I'm a sexual abuse survivor. And that is, as a trans man, that is a huge fear of mine. But it's true. When you hear about deaths, among the trans community, you never hear about murders amongst the trans masculine community. There have been 10 women, 10 trans women who have died this year. And almost all of them were our black sisters. How fucked up is that? Death, regardless, is upsetting no matter what. But when you see the stark difference between trans men and trans women, trans women are being targeted and they're being murdered. Trans men can't get a grip on their reality and they're killing themselves. Neither situation is a good situation. But, like something has to be done. So when I hear trans men saying that they're men's rights activists, all I could think of is, honey, you really need to get your priorities situated, because you're not gonna get what you need by being by being on that side. You can care about trans men and the affairs of trans men, but to bash feminism and to say that trans women and like other people don't give a fuck about us, when my very best friends, some of my family, are queer women, queer black women. You know why? Because they give a fuck about me, because they love me. And all you can say is all lives matter in response. They're the ones who are giving us support, because without the rest of the community, we would be left alone. Yeah, the community can be shit sometimes, but they're the ones who are holding us up because, let me tell you, the trans community is eating itself alive. We're tearing ourselves apart for no reason. And I'm trying to sit and wonder how you can expect rights and respect from the rest of the community when you can't even sit and respect yourself. The reason why I wanted to make a magazine, create a space for masculine centered people, for trans men, is because there isn't space for trans men. There isn't. But that doesn't mean that I'm putting that on a platform to openly be misogynistic and to openly dismiss feminism as being oppressive to me and trans men. Because the definition of feminism is equality amongst the sexes. Whether you identify as male or female, trans man, trans woman, non binary, it doesn't matter. Feminism is all about equality. It started off trying to make women equal to men. And it still hasn't happened. It still hasn't happened. And, that's why we as trans men get a lot of shit because they think, a lot of people tend to think that we gain male privilege when we start passing as masculine, which isn't true. But the more and more we perpetuate these disgusting displays of male behavior, the more people are going to believe that and the less support we're going to have. So my message for today is, next time you hear someone say, shit on the trans community, or, say something, don't respond in anger. Think about why they're saying this. The next time a trans man says to you something terrible, something misogynistic, let them go, because they're dealing with their own issues. And that's what it is at the end of the day. Trans people are the most transphobic people you will ever meet in your whole life. And that's something we all have to live with. Hold the community up. Trans men have a responsibility to hold trans women up. That's it at the end of the day. It's not, I'm not saying that we don't need to take care of ourselves, but our sisters are on the front line and they're dying, and they're the ones who are making us seem because they're dying. Trans men aren't doing shit, and I'm tired of it. And I'm going to end that video here. I'll probably be talking more about this. That was just something that really irritated me. Just please understand that we all really need to stick together. We all have our own experiences. We all have our own lives. No one's the same. No one transitions the same. But we have got to get it together, fam. Alright, this is Benny. Peace.